welcome to another Dead by Daylight video. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Huntress, and let's get right into it. Okay, the Huntress. She's a very basic killer. I would say arguably the most basic killer in the game. She has hatchets, and that's basically her entire power. She has hatchets that she can take out of a belt and she can throw them. And if they hit a survivor, it injures them if they were healthy, or it downs them if they were injured. They move at about 20. What you can do is you can pick them up and then just throw them straight away. And if you just throw them straight away, they move at about 25 meters a second. But you can also pick them up and then hold them. You pick them up with right mouse, and then you can, if you hold down right mouse, you hold the hatchet for longer, and then you'll hear it. You'll hear like a little sound, and then it'll just, you can just let go of the hatchet and it'll go much quicker than 25 meters a second. And that's basically it charging up, and then when you hit that sound, that means that it's fully charged, and you can just let go and then it'll go really quick, and it doesn't have as much drop. When you don't charge it, it curves a lot more. With the longer you charge it, the less it curves as you throw it. So the Huntress moves at 4.4 meters a second, or 110% movement speed, compared to most killers 4.6 or 115. And when she has a hatchet in her hand, she moves at 77% speed, or 3.08 meters a second. And instead of a terror radius of 32 meters, she has a terror radius of 20. But to make up for such a small terror radius, she has like a lullaby, which is sort of like a secondary terror radius, where you can hear her humming, which is, I think it's within 40 meters. I've seen people say it's within 48, and on the wiki it says 45, so around the range of 40 to 50 meters she has a lullaby. So she basically has a 40 to 50 meter terror radius, but not really, because terror radius perks will not work in the lullaby, only in the actual terror radius. She has 7 hatchets as a total. She can't cap it out at any more. She has 7 as the most she can possibly have. And then when you've ran out of all 7, you can go to a locker, place with the little red boxes where survivors can hide in, and you can pull out your hatchets, and you fully reload no matter how much you were on. You could be on 3 hatchets, 1 hatchet, 0 hatchets. You would go straight back up to 7 when you reload your hatchet. And that takes a few seconds, but obviously you are a slower killer. You have to move. You know, on some maps there will be completely massive area where there's no lockers anywhere. So that means that you're slow and you have to move a pretty far distance. So she can do some really cool stuff with the hatchets. Obviously she throws them, so she can hit from far away. And she can hit over pallets and hit over windows and hit over small objects. Like if you've got like a stomach height kind of wall, you can throw the hatchet over it. And one good trick is, don't aim for the survivor, aim for slightly behind them, because when they run they lean forward a bit, which displaces where they are compared to their hitbox. And also, another key tip, you want to be very accurate on survivors. You gotta look at the bum. Sounds weird, but that is the way. That's where the hitbox is displaced the least. So if you aim for that, you'll be fine. As you'll see from the gameplay, I'm not a very good Huntress, but she is very fun to play. especially, you know, as you're learning her. I've never really put much effort into learning Huntress. I do quite like her, but you know, and she's just not really my kind of killer. But she's probably, I think she's like one of the most popular killers consistently since her release. She usually sits at about a 10, 9, 8% usage rate, which is really good considering most killers are like 2%, 3%. You got some killers that are even less than 1%, like you see once in a blue moon. And yeah, that's pretty much the basics of the Huntress. Let's go on to the strategies. Okay, so the Huntress doesn't really have strategies or tactics. I wouldn't say personally. It's more kind of sub play styles, I guess you could call it. So obviously she throws hatchets. Pretty simple killer. Her description in Dead by Daylight is literally like 3 lines long. She's not, you know, she's not a difficult killer to wrap your head around, right? So she doesn't have any strategies that you might be able to think of. She has, you know, you can do things like throwing your hatchet into the air. If you get good at that, you can hit some really nice hatchet shots like from across the map. Like what you see a lot of really good hunters do is they'll sort of line themselves up with the way they know a survivor is, like on a generator or on a totem, somewhere they aren't moving, and they'll line them up. They'll go into they'll look into the air, and they'll just start throwing the hatchets, and they'll just move back or forth, backward or forward, you know, depending on like how close they think the hatchet was, and you'll eventually get like a crazy hit. And the hatchet hitboxes can also be a little wild. You see the hatchets, they're very thin, but the hatchet hitboxes are actually quite a lot thicker than the actual hatchets itself. So that can make you get some nice hits around corners. Do not make sense at all because the survivor's already like a second round the corner, but it hits anyway. You can also, you know, there's always Huntresses finding like little spots on maps where like there'll be a little gap, like no one's ever threw a hatchet before, and it's literally just big enough to throw a hatchet through, and survivors never expect it. And if you learn common gaps that you can throw hatchets through, and which survivors will not expect, you will get free hits all the time. You'll see it loads with really good huntresses. They'll be able to throw hatchets through little gaps that you like. It's like, how does the hatchet even fit through there? You got no idea, but they do it, and it works really well. You've also got using the hatchet for zoning instead of just getting hit. So what that is basically, you can hold a hatchet and you can just hold it, and if the survivor runs into an area, you just let go of the hatchet, you get a hit. So if there's a gap, you know, a doorway in a wall that you don't want the survivors to run through, you can hold your hatchet there, and that's where the survivor, they'll be seeing where you are, what you're looking at, and they'll think, right, okay, so obviously you can't go in there. And what they'll try and do is they'll try and bait you. They'll move into the area a little bit and then dodge out really quick. What you want to do as a huntress is you just want to keep holding. You are slower, but you just want to hold until you can guarantee that you're going to get that hit. And then boom, you get a hit from ages away or right close. And that's a pretty common strategy that works fairly well. There's also the strategy of getting right behind a survivor, literally like in hugging distance of them. You pull up a hatchet and let go, because you recover quicker from a hatchet throw than you do from a basic attack. Basic attack, it takes a few seconds, you know, you guy does the weapon wipe animation. The Huntress hatchets, you let it go, you go straight back up to your normal speed, and it takes like a second for your killer to get the weapon out. So the survivors get basically no distance on you, so you can just hatchet them and then basic attack them, and you can get really nice hits. Also, another thing that you can do where you throw it into the sky is, you'll see Huntresses, they'll throw one into the sky at no power, so it takes a long time because it has to go all the way up, arch, and then come all the way back down, and then they'll charge up a hatchet and throw it, and then both the hatchets can hit at the same time, and that can look really, really nice if you manage to pull it off. Let's see, are there any more Huntress strategies that I can think of? None that I can think of. If you can think of any, make sure to leave them in the comments, because I'm sure I've missed some. I'm sure I've probably missed a strategy or two out. Yeah, okay. Let's move on from the strategies. Okay, so we're on to the builds now. This is the common build, the perks that you'll get for just Huntress, and just the perks you'll get generally that don't belong to a killer. You got Spies from the Shadows. It's a decent information perk where when a crow flies off, it creates like a bubble where you can see a crow, and that's basically, there's a survivor there, that's basically what that means, there's a survivor near there. And then it goes on cooldown for 5 seconds. You got Hex Thrill of the Hunt, so then for every dull and Hex totem on the map, you get 10% more blood points, which, you know, doesn't really affect the game in any way. And Survivor's Cleanse and Bless totems 10% slower per token, so up to 50%, because there can be 5 totems on the map at one time. That bit makes sense because of Lullaby, Hex Huntress Lullaby, which is especially good against newer survivors, or survivors that are like, doing a stream or whatever, where whenever a survivor misses a skill check, usually it takes off 10% of a generator. With Huntress Lullaby it will do 16, so it gives an extra 6%, or even while healing. And every time you hook a survivor, it gets 1 stack, which each stack affects the warning of a skill check. It will make that sound just before a skill check comes. That gets shorter and shorter and shorter before the skill check comes. So from 1 to 4, it reduces the time of the warning sound. So at 1 it'll be just a little bit shorter, and then at 4 it'll be like near instant the moment you hear the sound, and then at 5 you get absolutely no warning whatsoever. So I'm sure you can tell that's why that's good against, you know, newer survivors, because they already will probably have trouble hitting the skill check. And then you have Bitter Murmur, where whenever a generator is completed, survivors within 16 meters of it have their aura shown to you for 5 seconds. And when the last generator gets fully completed, every survivor's aura across the entire map is revealed for 10 seconds. And then you've got 2 really good add-ons here. You've got the Glowing Concoction, where when you hit a survivor with a hatchet, it shows their aura for 5 seconds, which is obviously good for a follow-up hatchet, or a follow-up hit. And then you've got the Begrimed Head, which, when you hit a survivor with a hatchet, they get mangled and hemorrhage for 80 seconds. And mangled makes it so it takes 25% longer to heal. And hemorrhage makes it so you drop pools of blood more often, and your healing progress gets regressed when you aren't being healed. So it can waste a lot of time if you catch someone out while they are healing. And then you've got this more aggressive slowdown kind of build with Deadlock, where when a generator is completed, generator with the most progress is blocked for 25 seconds, and you see it's already in white, so it slows the game down quite a lot. 25 seconds, you know, there's 25 seconds usually between every single generator completed, which can buy you a lot of time. You've got Lethal Pursuer, where at the beginning of the game, all survivors' auras are shown to you for 9 seconds, and whenever a survivor's aura is shown, it's increased for an extra 2 seconds, so if you reveal a survivor's aura for 5 seconds, it'll be 7 instead. And then you have Grim Embrace, where when you hook a survivor for the first time, and you step 16 meters away from the hook, every single generator across the entire map, no matter what, is blocked for 10 seconds. And when you hook every single survivor uniquely, when you move 16 seconds away, instead of the generators getting blocked for 10 seconds, they get blocked for 40, so a really long time of no progress being done. And you see the aura, you see the Obsession's aura for 6 seconds, which is 8 with Lethal Pursuer, so it prevents them fully from doing anything to progress the game, but you can find a survivor really quickly. And then you have No Way Out, which is a good backup plan, good plan B for the end game. It's only tier 1 on Huntress for me, but tier 3 is really good, I promise. It also works like Grim Embrace, where when you hook each survivor for the first time, you get a stack. And then at the end of the game, when a survivor interacts with a gate, when they start opening a gate, it creates a loud noise notification, like when survivors will miss a skill check. And then the entity blocks both the gates for 12 seconds, just flat. And then for an extra, for an extra 12 seconds at tier 3 for each token, so a total of 1 minute of the exit gate not being opened. Really good, again. Really good set of perks. Oh, let's talk about the add-ons. And then you have the Flower Babushka, where the time to pick up a hatchet from your belt takes 10% less time. So you can pick up a hatchet and throw it quicker with this add-on. Jeez, sorry about that. And then you've got the Deerskin Gloves, where time to open a locker, take the hatchet out and close the locker is 20% shorter, so just quicker reload by 20%, pretty good add-on. And then you have this aggressive aura reading build with Lethal Pursuer. I've already gone over that, so I'm not going to go over it again. I'm All Ears, where when a survivor vaults a window, within 48 meters of you, is shown to you for 8 seconds, and then goes on a 30-second cooldown, which obviously that 8 becomes 10 with Lethal Pursuer. And then Nowhere to Hide, whenever you damage a generator, every survivor within 24 meters of you has the aura shown for 5 seconds at tier 3, which then becomes 7 with Lethal Pursuer. And then Pop Goes the Weasel, where whenever you kick a generator, whenever you hook a survivor, it activates for 40 seconds. 60, on tier 3. And then when you hook a survivor, when you damage a generator, it loses 20% of its current progress, which it isn't a bad slowdown perk. It can slow the game down quite a lot, and it synergizes with Nowhere to Hide, because they both activate upon kicking a generator. And 2 good add-ons for Huntress is the Oak Haft, where the cooldown between throwing a hatchet and being able to do a basic attack or pick up another hatchet out of your belt is reduced by 20%, so you can fire hatchets off really quick with this add-on. And then you have the Shiny Pin, where when you're aiming a hatchet, your movement speed is increased by 5%, so instead of moving at 77% speed, you move at approximately 82. I know that's an extra 5%, but it'll probably be 5% of 77. So it'll be slightly less. It'll probably be more like 81 or maybe 82, between that range. And again, yeah, that's a really good one. Let's go over some more add-ons as well. here, you know, let's go over some add-ons that you shouldn't really use. If you're, you know, trying to get good with hatchets, and you're not planning on having one add-on constantly, which probably isn't really that good, you don't want to be using the yellow cloth or the rose rue, because that makes the hatchet, while it's actually in the air, move quicker, which it'll affect your muscle memory. If you're not used to that, you will think that, you know, usually a survivor would run into the hatchet, but because the hatchet's quicker, it'll just miss. You know, they can be good add-ons if you get used to them, but then you can, you know, it'll mess with your muscle memory if you take them off. And that's really it. This is just a worse version of the flower babushka, and this is just a worse version of the oak haft. These status effect ones aren't too bad. You've got the core stone. That's not, you know, it's niche, but it's not awful. This one's really bad. Don't use that. I can promise you there's no point using that. The lever loop and the infantry belt is also not really that good, because the haste is not that big and it's not for very long. The venomous concoction isn't bad because it's exhausted, so even though it's only 5 seconds, they don't get it back while they're running. So, you know, if you hit someone just before they vault a window, then they can't use light, which activates upon a window vault. You got the rusty head, which is just a worse version of the begrimed head, but, you know, it's not awful. You should use the begrimed head if you can, though. You have the wooden fox, where you lose your terror radius and red stain, and you become undetectable basically for 30 seconds after you reload. This doesn't sound that good, because the lullaby doesn't go away when you're undetectable. It actually is pretty decent. It'll catch survivors off guard pretty often, and for 30 seconds is quite a long time to be undetectable. And then the 2 iridescent add-ons. You have the iridescent head, where instead of having 7 hatchets, you only have 1. But when you hit a survivor, no matter, even if they were healthy, they'll go straight into the dying state. And then you have the soldier's putty, which it works with this one really well. It works with the other iridescent add-on really well, where when you have no hatchets, you move at 4.6 meters a second, which, you know, it sounds like it could be useful with the rest of the add-ons, but most of the time you'll be at a locker that you won't need to, like, moving at 4.6 doesn't really matter. So, you know, it's basically the only add-on that works extremely well with iridescent head. I couldn't really, you know, because you don't need the oak haft, because you're not following up, because you're getting them straight out. And then you don't need the glowing concoction because they're down. And then you don't need to make them exhausted because they're down. So yeah, these two, they work really well together, but they don't really work too well with any other add-on really. And that has been the Huntress, the deep dive into the Huntress. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you'll pick up the Huntress. She's really fun to play as and against, so I don't think anyone would complain about more Huntresses being in the world, in, you know, being able to play against them. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. I hope you pick up the Huntress, and I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, wherever you may be. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next video, which I don't know when that is, but it shouldn't be too long. Maybe tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.